When looking at establishes and maintains agreements, competency marker number 3 is about things that you will often find in your coaching contract. It says that the coach and the client reach agreement about the guidelines, specific parameters of the coaching relationship, such as logistics, fees, scheduling, duration, termination, confidentiality, and inclusion of others. These are the things that ICF mentions, and it would be things such as that. So what shows that you are a competent coach is that you contract with the client and that it is really clear what the legal contract that the client is getting into, right? Things like, where are we going to meet? Are we going to meet by phone? Are we going to meet by video? Are we going to meet in person? Right? What are the rules around how we work together? Is it okay if they text you? Is it okay if they call you? What happens if they want to talk to you between sessions? There's nothing that says what you need to do or even that you need to accept any of those things. But if you have specific guidelines about it that you want to include in your coaching practice, then your client should know. So you have to let them know. And this might be in your coaching contract. It might be in a welcome letter. It might be in a conversation. Several of these items are likely to be in your coaching written contracts with the client. Right. So things like fees. Well, how much is this going to cost? What is my client paying? If they've got a payment plan, what does that payment plan look like? What is your refund policy? What happens if they cancel? If they're going to cancel, how should they contact you? When should they contact you? What happens if they don't show up? What happens to their session that they've paid for if they're a no-show or they're a late cancellation? What's the duration of the coaching, which may mean how many months, and it may mean how many sessions. It's up to you to determine that and you to work with your client to figure that out. How do we end the coaching engagement? Is it ongoing until someone ends it? Is it done by a certain date? What happens if the client wants to cancel early, or if the coach wants to cancel early? How do we handle that? And also confidentiality and inclusion of others in the coaching. So we should have a really clear discussion about the confidentiality we hold with our clients. For those of you who are students, if you're working with a client and you're intending to record those sessions, well, first you have to have permission. And you have to have permission to share those recordings before you do so. So if you're going to bring that recording for your mentor coach to listen to, then you have to get approval from your client first before you bring that to anyone else to listen. Right? So how does confidentiality work? When is confidentiality not applicable? Right? And then, will we be including other people in the coaching? Are we doing coaching with, a couple? Or are we coaching a certain part of an organization? Is it just me and you and nobody else can come into the coaching? And if you decide to have someone else, is there a different charge? There's all kinds of things that you're going to go across, and there's different models and different ways of working with clients. You are free to do what you want and what works for you in your practice with your clients. You just need to make sure that it's clear. In order to show competency, we want to make sure that the client and the coach agree and know what they're getting into. Marker number 4 says that the coach partners with the client and relevant stakeholders to establish the overall coaching planning goals. This is extremely important, especially if you're working in an organization. So when we come into an organization as a coach, we shouldn't just show up and be like, hey, yep, I'm a coach, I'm here, and then just start doing stuff. You want to make sure that you talk with your client and determine, well, why am I here? What's the work I'm supposed to be doing? And what's the goal, right? What are we trying to to do, and what outcomes are we looking for, and how are we going to get there, and how are we going to check in, and when will we adjust, and things like that. What's the goal of coaching? What's the type of work we're going to do? Maybe we'll do group sessions. Maybe we'll do individual sessions. Maybe we'll, as a part of that plan, we're going to do assessments and things like that. Agree with your client what you're getting into. And number 5 is partners with the client to determine coach-client compatibility. So coaches, it is your responsibility to make sure that you and your client are compatible. It doesn't mean that everyone will be compatible. It means that you have the burden of ensuring that if they are going to be your client and going to remain your client, that there is a compatibility to do the work of coaching and get the value of that coaching. This does not say that you have to take on every client. What ICF is saying here is that be selective and choose the clients that you can work with, clients that you've made agreements with that are clear, that you know that this relationship is going to work. You know what organizational environment you're getting in. When you work with a one-on-one client, it's somebody that you as the coach feel comfortable with, and that you feel like this can be a relationship that can be successful. The client should feel safe and successful and like this is a good relationship. And so part of your onboarding with a client is all of this stuff, these competency markers 1 through 4. And as you're doing that, this is the time to determine compatibility. Now, that doesn't mean that you won't contract with somebody, get into a relationship, do a few coaching sessions, and figure out that this isn't working for the coach or for the client for whatever reason. Or maybe you join an organization and you're realizing that I'm not the right coach for you. Maybe you're working with a client and they want some kind of specific coaching or work or even consulting, and that's not what you do. So if you're not compatible, then in the relationship, or don't take it on if you can realize that before getting started. So these last 5 markers have been markers about the overall coaching relationship. The next markers we look at are going to be markers about inside of each individual session. Looking forward to seeing you there.